You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Meghan Rose. Meghan is a spiritual advisor and intuitive tarot card reader based out of Los Angeles, offering services virtually worldwide. Previously in private investment, her story acts as a reminder. Where you start does not have to be where you end up. And she actually has this beautiful bio, you guys, we're going to put in the show notes, but I didn't want to miss a minute of her. And I know we only have a 30-minute segment. And I wanted her to just share her story, a little bit about what she's doing. Meghan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Jana, I feel so blessed to be on the Oh My Health podcast and be able to connect with your community. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited. I'm excited. Like I've been waiting, and I know we had a couple of, problems with this scheduling, but I've been so excited to have you on. And one of the first things we ask all of our guests to do is to share a story of hope. And I'm hoping that you have something you can share with us.
Absolutely. So, the first thing that comes up for me is a conversation that I just had last week with my Nana on her 77th birthday. And this is coming off of a 4-year battle that she has had with lung cancer. So she had the bottom left lobe of her lung taken out when she was actually away at her winter home in Florida. And so being able to celebrate not only a 4th year off of her surgery, but that beautiful Pisces woman's 77th birthday. I hope that this story can kind of act as a space to remind anybody that's dealing with sickness, illness, family troubles, especially in the middle of a pandemic, that you are not alone, that there is hope out there, and that the body can do miraculous things. So just understanding that her celebration of life is everybody's celebration of life. And when we get on that page, celebrating with other people, we all win.
That is so beautiful and so true. And I wish we did celebrate others' lives. And those, I just posted a picture of me that wasn't very flattering because I'm getting old, right? And I'm getting, like, my skin's not as tight and it's wrinkly. But I remember as a little girl looking at a friend of my mom, when she smiled, she had those laugh lines around her eyes and her mouth. And I remember thinking, as like that 7 or 8-year-old, when do I get those? I can't wait to get those. And then I looked in the mirror the other day. I'm like, oh, they're here.
You manifested it, Jana.
Yes, I did. I manifested it. And I'm loving it and embracing it, because what's the alternative? Not having them, meaning I'm not here.
Yes. And you look stunning. Laugh lines or not, my goodness.
Thank you so much. I want to talk a lot about what you do as a spiritual advisor. So for those of you who listen to my show, you know that I love holistic and spirituality of all kinds. And I'm an avid, I get my tarot cards done all the time. If I'm having a bad day, I'll pull a card and it reminds me on what path I'm supposed to be on. So to embrace whatever that moment is I'm going through. And tell us a little bit about that.
Completely. I mean, tarot in and of itself is simply a divination tool, or a tool to receive divine messages. And what I like to tell people as well is anybody can learn how to read tarot. It's kind of like a second language. So you go through these 78 cards and they all stand for a different subconscious archetype that we all have access to within the human psyche. And the reality of these cards is that they bring about a sense of clarity as to where your energy is going if you stay with the energy that you are currently embodying. So I always like to tell people, as well, even though there is a little bit of prospicience or foresight within the act of getting your tarot cards read, what it also reminds us of is our innate sense of free will. That if you change what's going on right now, the answers of the future are going to change as well. So almost choosing what you're putting into the mixing bowl to see what's going to come out of the oven later on.
I like it. And I feel like you get what you go in wanting to receive. So for instance, you can't judge a book by its cover. So sometimes you see those cards and you'll see swords or the death card. And when I see the death card, I'm like, yeah, score, because I know that means something new. Like there's a rebirth, there's something exciting and new coming. So you can't always judge it by the cover. So I remember when I first had my first reading, I thought I was dying. Like there was all this negativity because that's what it visually looked like to me. But the cards were like completely the opposite.
Totally. There is nothing short of accuracy in what you were just saying. You cannot judge these cards by their imagery, but what you can do is read into that imagery and understand, like in the Rider-Waite Tarot's depiction of the death card, you see a pope and a young child kind of praying towards this skeleton riding on a horse, welcoming in death. But what it does, like you mentioned, is represent something even deeper than that. And it is that rebirth cycle and understanding if we can attach to what the goddess Heal taught us so many eons ago, is that life and everyone within it is based on the life, death, life cycle. So once we hit that death cycle, we know that life is on the other side of it.
I remember, I'm going to just share a little reading that I had one time with a tarot card. I had lost somebody very dear that was older, and it was just definitely their time to go. And I remember not being able to say goodbye. And in my heart, I kept thinking, like, I just wasn't able to say goodbye. I just hope that they're safe wherever they're at, right? And they're in that place. And I had a friend pull a card, and she pulled a card, and on the card was an older woman with a lantern crossing a bridge. And under that, it said, arrived safely to destination on the card. And that was the thing that I had needed to hear. And like a lot of people can see that and interpret different things from it. But to me, it was them saying, I'm here, I'm good. I've moved on to that next space, right? And I'm okay. So that was like a way that once that card hit me, I became an avid tarot person.
Completely. And I can't tell you how many times, Jana, I have had first timers come to me for their sessions. And I always feel so blessed every time, because the one thing that I really like to bring into my work is the intention setting and that opening ritual practice, where we're asking for their guides of the purest and highest intention to be present during the reading. So what we're getting is that really personal messaging that's happening during the session. And for you, whether that reader said it or not, she was probably there. Your friend who crossed over from the human existence was absolutely there with you, giving you that message because she knew that that's what you needed.
I love that. And that is exactly what I needed. So I definitely got what I needed in that one pull. That was one card that she picked. So that was amazing. And the other thing I want you to explain to people is I hear this a lot. When people have a reading or they see a psychic or whatever that is, they think whatever is being told to them is set in stone. And I want people to understand that you have free will to move towards that positive change or stay in that negative space, right? There's nothing that's ever going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in your future or exactly what you have to do. You have that free will to make that choice, to make change in that. So if it said you're dying on Tuesday, there's a nasty card that says you're going. That doesn't mean I'm going on Tuesday, right? I have the choices to make better choices maybe and change that destination.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've given someone the use of tarot for timelines, and those timelines have either shortened or lengthened in span because of the actionable steps that people are taking. So when we think about the law of attraction and manifestation and intention setting as practices, all of them are based on the pillar of understanding that you are in co-collaboration with the universe. So the things that are pre-written or destined for you absolutely have the chance, opportunity to come in quicker or lengthen out in time. And I always tell the people that I'm working with that whether these things actually happen or not, but just taking on the understanding of the timeline being shorter or longer, it's our action steps and what we choose to do with our human form that determine what's coming to us and at what speed. So as human beings, we are not in control of the how or the when, but we are in control of what we are doing to get to that space. So that's where the co-collaboration comes in. The universe and you working in tandem to either actualize something or let the opportunity pass. And death in and of itself, or these seemingly negative things, are also opportunities because they give us the space to grow.
That was beautifully said. One of the other things I want to talk about is that because I have a lot of psychics that come on, but you're the first tarot card reader I had, and I'm from an older generation. Like everyone knows, I'm turning 60 in a few weeks. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. And one of the things I hear from my generation is that it's satanic. Like that's Satan. Like that's. But it is not. Like we were all born with an intuitiveness. And for all of you who are mothers who think, oh no, that's not true, that's satanic. How many times have your child lied to you or done something and you knew, like you look at them and they come in the door and you're like, oh, they're not feeling well. I can see it. I can feel it. Like my whole being knows something's wrong. We all have that beautiful intuitiveness. It's a gift. And what we choose to do with it, whether we ignore it or not, it's there. And I think that having a tarot reading or having a psychic medium who's talking to your spirit guide and sharing a message with you is all part of that intuitiveness. It's not, to me, it has never been satanic. But what would you say to people who feel that way? Like if I do this, it's like Satanism.
Well, bringing everything back full circle, because that's just the way that life works. That Nana, the grandmother that I was speaking about earlier for my story of hope, she just turned 77. That woman has been a devout Catholic from the minute that she was born. And I grew up in rural New Hampshire for the first 21 years of my life with heavy Catholic roots. And as anybody who has any sort of introduction or understanding of Catholicism knows, tarot or divination practices are considered part of the occult. They're considered satanic, dark magic. And I moved across the country. My whole family thought I was absolutely out of my mind. I was the 5th generation New Hampshireite. Like my family has been there and built roots. And I just always felt that intuitive pull, like I was being limited by the lack of spiritual awareness practices, and just the ability to kind of use those practices without judgment. So when I moved out here and I got involved with tarot reading as a career, what I started to understand was how blatantly wrong the things that I was told growing up really were. And that tarot, in my experience and the experiences that I've had sharing this with other people, have only ever been of the light, allowing people clarity, allowing people self-awareness. But we really have to go back to the 14th century when tarot began in Italy, when it was used as playing cards called tarocchi back in the 14th century. And this was at a time where the church really started to try to squash any practices that were being used to take place of the Word of God. So what we understand there is that anytime that this is referred to as the satanic practice is simply the oppression of human intuition to keep people in a state of control. And we have the power now to break out of that and really break those generational chains that have plagued us for so many centuries.
Well, Megan, I could tell you've been asked that question before because that was a great answer. So thank you.
It's a lot of studying, my love. I promise. With my Virgo brain, I don't do anything without heavy research.
I love it. Well, the other question I'm going to ask you is, a lot of people think that you cannot do a reading if you're not face-to-face in a building with someone, right, on the premises. And that's not true, because I do mine all the time via Zoom or a phone call, and it is possible. Can you tell us how that's possible?
Of course. So my first introduction to alternative healing and honing in on my energetic gifts was going through the Usui lineage of Reiki. So I'm actually a trained Reiki master. And I use a lot of the pillars of information from Reiki in my practices with tarot because, again, it's all energetic work. We're working with the 5th dimension, our spirituality and the spiritual body anytime that we're getting a reading. And what we can learn from Reiki energy healing is that all of the times that we connect with other people are based on the Hermetic law of similarity, which states that we are all from the same source energy. So with that being said, you, I, and the 8 billion other people on this planet are just different iterations of the same energy. So when you're virtual or at a distance from someone, if you are gaining consent from that person and you are consenting to being a channel for that person, all you're doing is tapping into the source energy that you're both already connected to. So if that makes sense to the human ear, that is why we are able to do this work from wherever with whoever, as long as we have consent.
I love that explanation. I literally tell people, if you pray for someone that's not in front of you, do you not feel like that healing prayer is not going out? That energy goes out into the world. That's why when there's more people doing it, it creates like this bigger energy force.
Yes.
And if I start praying for my child who maybe is at school, I know the power of that energy going out to them. So it's kind of the same a little bit as far as how you're able to do this and connect with them from different locations.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better, Jana. That was a great kind of application to that
Thank
knowledge.
you.
Perfect.
So what kind of reasons do people come to? Like I'm thinking love life, career, health. Like what kind of readings do people come to you for?
There's so many different reasons that I might be on the phone with a client, but I would say the most common reasons are clarity on love. And I have gone through extensive training to be able to do relationship expertise within my readings. So that's always kind of my sweet spot. I can't tell you how many times I've seen visuals of someone coming in, and then within 6 months, they're sending me pictures of them like hiking on the top of a mountain, and it's to a T that person that came through. But I also have kind of understanding of career, abundance, money, how to get people really back into purpose. And you'll see that within my spiritual advisory work, because the program itself is called Align Spiritual Advisory. And through my work, and anytime that I'm taking questions from other people, whether it's love, career, family, money, vacations, roommate issues with a neighbor, whatever it is, it always comes back to that core question of how do I get myself into alignment? How do I get myself back on track to be the highest vibrational version of myself? So however that applies and whatever blockage is coming up, no question is off the table.
So how do they take that reading and internally use that to create change in maybe the way they're moving forward or the way they are aligning? Because I think it's absolutely right. If you're in alignment, let's say your love life, and you're needing this in your life, but you're over here shopping for that, you're never going to find this because you're at the wrong store.
Yes. I always use the analogy of you can't go to the gas station for groceries. Like, we have to put ourselves in the space where we're able to receive what it is that we're hoping for. So that's why a lot of the times it's not that someone's not meant to be in a relationship, but if it hasn't worked out with your ex the last 7 times, let's kind of put you into a new environment. Let's get you to the space where you can open your heart up and be in a reciprocal connection with someone. And it works in a way that you're getting the aha moment. You're getting the message that your guides know will translate in kind of your thinking brain, your human mind, into understanding of something that you weren't previously aware of. And typically that awareness is the very spoke in the wheel that will take somebody off of the hamster wheel and take them out of autopilot, and then ultimately be able to take the actionable steps to do something different. Because again, the doing is the part of the human experience that's so pivotal, because the universe is already in that co-collaborative space doing so much behind the scenes. It just needs you to be the vehicle.
I love that answer, because everyone that I've ever met that's had a tarot card reading or any other kind of reading tells me afterwards, I don't even know what to do with that information. And it's more for entertainment purposes. but it's not. It's like a stop sign. It's not there to maybe stop, don't stop. It
Right.
really is telling you green light, red light, yellow light, or get out of this lane completely and on a different road. So I was hoping that when you explain it, which I think you did beautifully, is that you tell them what they do with that information, how they can internally use that information, take it home, make change, or be aware of what is going on. So the next time it happens, you're like, oh, that's exactly what they were telling me about. And it does keep happening.
Yes, knowledge is such a powerful gift. And I always refer back to a poem by Portia Nelson called There's a Hole in My Sidewalk. And for anybody listening, I highly recommend Googling it, looking this poem up, and allowing that information to sit and resonate with your spirit. Because the reality is we can either fall into a hole and we were never aware of it in the first place. We can fall into a hole and still victimize ourselves. We can fall into a hole and start to take accountability. And at that point, we get out of the hole much quicker. And then we can walk down that same street and walk around the hole. And kind of that final portion is just taking a completely different path and avoiding that issue at all costs. So at the point where change is really made and implemented is simply the awareness. So my hope every time that I read for my clients is just to be that point of awareness in the message that I'm sharing, so they can then choose to walk around the hole the next time.
That is a beautiful analogy, because I talk about people that get in the same relationship over and over and over, and it doesn't work. And I make a joke saying they have a bad man picker. Oh, she has a bad man picker. She's always picking the same man, but she's always literally falling in the same hole because she hasn't figured out what that is that she's reaching out and grabbing and learning to walk around it or completely avoid, like you said, the road. So definitely there is some truth to that for sure. So, okay, let's see. What else can we ask you about tarot card readings? Is there something that I'm missing that we haven't covered?
I mean, I would say the one thing that is really present for me is just for anybody that is afraid to get a tarot card reading, understand that if you go into it with the intention of learning information that is going to help you, or opening yourself up to a reader that is going to help you, that the universe will deliver for you. So I can't tell you how many times I've had people cancel appointments or, reach out to me prior to their scheduled appointment. And they're like, I'm so scared to have this done. And I always ask them, what parts of yourself are you afraid to face? And if you can sit with that question for any length of time and bring consciousness to the fear, you'll see how small the fear is in comparison to you and your power. So if there's anybody out there that is concerned or confused or scared about entering into the space of tarot, I would love to ask you to do two things. And that's one, to set the intention of having a safe healing experience, and then to also sit with any fear that's presenting itself so you can understand how much bigger you are than the fear that's coming up.
That is beautiful, because I do think there is a lot of fear behind it. They're afraid you're going to tell them something. By the way, she's not going to tell you anything you really don't already know. She's just going to point it out like, yes, whatever you've been thinking, it's true. You've got to change this, or you've got to look there. You probably already know this. And then you see it all laid out in this beautiful pattern and story. And the universe is like opening the doors saying, you're right, here it is for you. So once you do sit with it and resonate with it, you'll see how small that fear is. It's something I already know. It's like not going to the doctors to have your blood work, knowing there might be something wrong. And then you get your blood work and it's like, oh, you just need some vitamin D. Oh, okay.
The answer is always so much easier than the hypothetical mind will allow you to believe. So let yourself think about your future as, what would the best case scenario coming off of this be? And watch the way that your life changes. I can't tell you how many times, especially as somebody with clinically diagnosed anxiety, it took a long time for me to get right with my mind and to calm my fears and have energetic, emotional, spiritual gatekeepers that only allow the information that I need to hear to come in. But we all have that power to to view ourselves as bigger than the fear that we have.
Since I've been 16 years old, I've known I was an intuitive and an empath. And the world sent me a very powerful message at 16. The universe like screamed at me to pay attention. And I was fortunate enough to listen at that moment. And because of that moment, I listen constantly to the universe. So when I want to do something and my head tells me a million reasons I can't, but that universe is like, this is your path, I always move towards it. And I've never not been rewarded for that move, right? Of just leaning into where, even though everything else says no, I can feel that pull and I just lean into it. And it's always, always, always led me down the right path.
And Jana, I mean, even just sitting in your presence, I can tell how much you in your presence have up-leveled over and over and over again to be able to share your light with so many people, to have these high vibrational conversations, and ultimately to want to heal the collective through the work that you're doing. That shows me that every time you've gotten to one of those crossroads, you've always chosen the right path. And for anybody that's listening to this, it's never too late to start doing that.
Oh no, because there will be times like that you are in a busy, dark moment, maybe like raising kids. You're so busy, I don't have time for this right now. So that can't be the case. And you just stick in that moment. I have literally fallen in not a good way and realized, wow, okay, so sometimes even going against it is the right thing because I learned a really valuable lesson. To listen the next time, but I didn't always choose. I mean, 99.9% of the time I knew to lean into the universe's calling or warnings or signs. But the few times I didn't, it was very awakening to me and gave me that growth that I needed to be more aware, like this is here for a reason. So yeah, if you stumble, that's not bad, by the way. It's a good thing sometimes to fall.
Absolutely. And that's what I always tell people too, even when they have readings and the outcome seems negative. I always tell people it doesn't feel positive when you're laid off of work. It doesn't feel positive when you go through a breakup. It doesn't feel positive when you are struck with illness. But within the loss and the stillness and the silence, so oftentimes that's where we get this really potent opportunity to learn about ourselves. When we're constantly caught up in the chaos of life and going, moving, changing, it can be very difficult for us to actually hear that inner voice. So I definitely resonate with you stating that. And I do believe, you know, whether you pull it back to tarot or any other intuitive practice, there's never really a wrong choice. You are always held to make the choices and either learn or grow from those experiences.
I love it. Where can people connect with you, Meghan? Because I think you're phenomenal. So if you're already tarot people, you have a new tarot lady. But if you're not tarot people, even if your mindset is like for entertainment purposes anyways, right? Because I'm telling you, we'll open up a beautiful, beautiful message to you that it's been right in front of your face the whole time anyways, but it just makes it so much more clear. And I feel like sometimes, by the way, I've never had a bad tarot reading ever. And I've been doing it for years, but it's because that's what I choose to receive when I go in there.
Yes.
So I've never once had a bad tarot reading. So you don't have to have a bad one, or you don't have to be afraid that something negative is going to come up, or your husband's cheating on you, or, you know, like you're going to be alone the rest of your life. That just doesn't happen.
Completely. I know. So whether it is to connect to have a tarot card reading, or you just want to connect so we can stay in this space and raise the collective vibration together, people can find me at Meghan Rose Tarot. So it's MEGHAN Rose Tarot. And then my website is themeghanrose.com. So I would love to find anybody listening at either of those spaces. Please make your presence known. And I would love to share love with you.
Well, you guys are going to be able to find Meghan's complete bio in the show notes, along with all the ways to connect with her. And I totally would recommend connecting with her because I think I can just feel her energy. I think she's phenomenal. I've been so excited to have her on the show. So thank you so much, Meghan.
Thank you, Jana.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.